Hello, hello, hello. Lovely Friday. Hey, everyone. Give me 1 second. I'm just making sure the stream is actually going through and everybody can hear me. Look at that. You definitely can. So, everybody, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream, the first episode of The Good, the Mad, the Ugly, the my personal show where I'm going to talk about. Actually, let me restart. That's way too formal. So, hey everybody. You might know me best as the editor of Bounding into Comics. My name is Spencer Bakuli. Welcome to The Good, the Mad, and the Ugly, my new live stream show. We'll figure it out. We're just kicking everything off, where I want to provide a space for the more weeby members of our community, the more video game oriented people in our community, and not just our community, just everywhere, to have a space to talk about all the things we like. We don't, basically all the things we don't get a chance to talk about on the Black Pill stream. So today we are going to be talking about, and I figured it was a really good topic to debut with because, I mean, everybody's watching it. It's very surprising that they actually pulled it off, but Netflix's One Piece. Yes, everybody, the 8 episodes dropped last week. They cover pretty much the beginning of the series. So the way I thought I would structure this show tonight is we're going to start by talking about the. Sorry, I'm checking the analytics over here. Oh, and you can see it, because I'm stupid. Yeah, again, guys, this is like my first solo live stream. I'm using OBS. I'm swimming wild here, so bear with me. Yes, we're going to talk about One Piece. I figured we'd start by, or the structure would be about. We would start with the story, or let me blah 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 blah. Right. We'll start with like an overview of the series, just talk about kind of what happened, and then I want to talk about the characters, the acting, the production, all that stuff, and then we'll get to the end, which is, did it actually manage to pull it off? I mean, we all know that Netflix has a terrible, and not just Netflix, but the West in general has an awful, awful, awful track record with anime adaptations. I mean, the one that always comes to mind, I know for me, it's me and Josh, who I don't know if he's in the chat, my fellow coworker, my friend over at Bounding into Comics, Josh Berger. We both think of Dragon Ball Evolution because Dragon Ball is our jam, right? That's the one that always comes to my mind. That is always terrible. And a lot of people recently, obviously, have been talking about Cowboy Bebop because that thing was a gigantic steaming pile of doo-doo. Like, there's just no way around it. If you know someone who likes Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix series, unironically, you need to take them to like a hospital, a mental asylum, get them some help because I don't know what to tell you. There's that to look at what that show was and go, oh, I want more of that. That was good Bebop. I have to assume you were dropped several thousand times as a child. But this, on the subject of Bebop, the crazy thing about this Netflix series, if you guys notice here on the artwork Oda did in celebration of the series premiere, it is actually produced by the very, very same studio that did Cowboy Bebop. They're called Tomorrow Studios. This is basically I think their second biggest project after Cowboy Bebop. Like, they were formed to help Netflix produce Cowboy Bebop. So, as you all might have seen from on Bounding into Comics, let me see if I can pull up the article real quick. We know that the production team for this show clearly learned something from that awful, awful Cowboy Bebop, because we had the executive producer himself, Marty Adelstein, come out and say, what we learned is that the fans are expecting you to be true to the source material. And essentially, if you go to Bounding into Comics, you check the One Piece tag over the last few weeks, everybody attached to this show, from the showrunners to the director to the production designers to the executive producers, obviously, and even the president of Tomorrow Studios, all of them have, come out and basically said, yeah, we missed. We missed hard. That was not a good series. We did not do well. We got to go back to the drawing board. And of course, they were also helped out in this fact by, here, let's see. Where's the tag? There you are. Every one of these stories is going to be written by me except one by John. Yeah, the ratings. So, as we all know, one of the best things, or the most important things about this show was, boom, Eiichiro Oda, the creator himself, was actually involved in the production of this show. I'm not going to get into the super weeds of the production because there's so much like paper, there's so many letters and messages and behind the scenes things that I might eventually do a separate video on it. But for now, Oda basically was approached to adapt One Piece by Netflix, by Tomorrow Studios, and they essentially convinced him, or Oda essentially felt that this was the last chance he had to get One Piece in front of a bigger audience. And I know how insane that statement sounds because it's One Piece. It's been in front of everybody. It's one of the most popular mangas of all time. It's the #1 selling manga of all time. Like, you would think everybody would know this, but apparently, I mean, not apparently, we've all seen it. It's not exactly, at least in the West, let me put it that way. In the West, there is not a lot of, or at least until like recent years, there was not a lot of what like One Piece love in the States. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that when it was, the first time it ever got brought over was by the notorious 4Kids. You know, and they did all the extreme censorship. They made Sanji stop smoking and gave him a lollipop. They turned him into a Brooklyn guy. Who is it? One of the characters has like a gun, and they change it into a boxing glove essentially, and it's pretty embarrassing because, you know, 4Kids was like, oh, no violence for kids, blah blah blah. So Oda was basically really afraid that this was going to be his last shot to get One Piece out there to be the true global phenomenon like Dragon Ball it should be. And so when he was trying to sign on to the show, Tomorrow Studios and Netflix were like, all right, if you come on, we will let you, we will let you have like full last say. You get creative control basically over all of this. So Oda agreed. He was on site for production. He was giving them notes. He was, you know, he said like if I didn't like the scene, they would reshoot it until I was satisfied with it. And that stands in super stark contrast to how they treated Shichiro Watanabe, the Cowboy Bebop creator, where they said, hey, can you like look this over? Here's our prospect. Here's our scripts. This is what we want to do. And Watanabe said, this is awful. Like, this is really, really bad. I like, here are all my notes, da 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 da. And Tomorrow Studios and Netflix went, nah, never mind. We don't want you. And they just ignored him. They wrote him off. They said, we're doing our own thing. And look how that turned out for them, right? It was a disaster. But so in life, everybody deserves second chances. And Tomorrow Studios definitely got their second chances with One Piece. And ultimately, I think up at the top, I'm going to say for the most part, it was successful in what it was trying to do. And we'll get into that near the end. But first, I want to start by just discussing the production itself, because I'm going to give super kudos to, let's start with the cast, because the casting in this show was just incredible. Starting with this guy, Inaki Godai. Like, say what you will about everything else in the show, whether you thought some of the cuts were weird or the changes were weird or you didn't like the structure, Godoy absolutely nailed his role. Like, I absolutely loved him in this role. It was great, right? He's super energetic. He always has that smile creeping up. He does a good walk, like a good, like, I'm like a kid playing an adult walk. It's almost the Dr. Funk walk from the meme that was going around earlier with Treasure Island earlier this year. And like, I was taking a bunch of notes while I was writing, and pretty much every episode starts with, I love Inaki. Like, Inaki rules. Inaki is killing it. Like, he's just the best. So I want to just shout out to Inaki. You absolutely nailed it. I want you to get the credit you deserve for this role. And then we of course have, here's one person that bugged me in their portrayal. Let me get a good, there he is. Kobe! So Kobe is a really great character in the comics. We all know that it basically plays out the same way. Luffy meets him. He saves him from Helmeppo and Axe-Hand Morgan, and then yada, yada, yada. He becomes a Marine, and eventually he becomes one of the better Marines, and, you know, he becomes a man. He learns how to, like, fight for himself. One of the funny things in the early chapters of One Piece, and let me pull up my volumes here so I can show you guys while I talk. Visual aids, everybody. We need them. Always grab your visual aids. So one of the things I really liked about their interactions, Kobe and Luffy in the original series, here I'm going to hide that for a second while it loads. We can just look at Kobe, is the fact that when they meet, Kobe is absolutely a scaredy cat, but he's more of a worry wart. You know, like, oh my gosh, don't do that. Oh my god, what are you gonna do? If Luffy's like, oh, I'm just gonna go into the pirate base. Well, don't go into the pirate base. Like, are you like it's always sort of out of Kobe's hands. And what I didn't really like about Kobe's portrayal here, especially in this opening interaction, I guess you could call it, probably like from here until he becomes a Marine, between him and Luffy, is that he's more chastising than Kobe is in the comics. You know, where, like I said, Kobe in the comics is very much a scaredy cat. He's still a scaredy cat here, but instead he's very like, oh my god, like, don't do that. You're so stupid. Like, nobody would think that. And in the comics, it's more, don't do that. Like, who would do that? And it was just a weird change to their dynamic that I didn't really like. I'm not finding any real good. Oh, here's a good one. Like, and it'll bring us to our next character. When they go to find Zoro, you know, he's like, I'm going to go free him. And he's like, that's suicide. If you let him loose, he'll kill us and wreck the town. In One Piece or in the Netflix series, it would be delivered more like, that's suicide. If you let him loose, he'll kill us, then wreck the whole town. And it's like, it just didn't work for me. The condescension was just completely off. But you know what? Like, I'm going to take this or jump off from here real quick because I didn't mention it with Anaki. The costuming, he looks like Kobe. Like, this, like, absolutely nails, 100% looks like Kobe. And especially later on when Kobe is more put together and has, like, his naval uniform, definitely looks like Kobe there. So again, one of the better visual fits. But this series also does just a really good job with its casting, finding those people who fit those perfect roles. We're going to get to, there he is, Zoro, right? Makinyu, Kamen Rider. I mean, that's the joke that's going around, right? If you know, Makinyu has a huge following and you know him of like one of several ways. I know him from Kamen Rider, Drive. I always forget which Kamen Rider he was because he was in the movie, but he's like a one-shot Kamen Rider. Super awesome. But Makinyu plays a pretty damn good Zoro, I would say. He delivers his lines with a good, it's not monotone, but just dry. That's what it is. He delivers them very dry in a really good way. And even when he's doing his sort of, like, there are moments where the Netflix creeps through, right? And he starts, and we have characters that start doing little quips, or it never gets as egregious as Marvel, thankfully. But you definitely go, oh, we're getting a little too close. You know, like, hey, step back from the railing. We don't want you to fall over. But Makinyu honestly honestly killed it as Zoro. I really appreciated it. He looks really natural with the green hair, which that's not anything. That's not a criticism. That's not a compliment. It just is. It's just something I noticed that I wanted to point out. Young Luffy, really good. I like this kid. Most of the kids were cast poorly, I would have to say, except for maybe him and Sanji. The Sanji kid was incredible in his role. Like, I would see him, I would pay to see more of that. I brought up the wrong browser. Let's see. There she is. That's who I wanted to get to. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I keep passing her up. YouTube's probably already taken me down 500 times. There she is. Emily Rudd as Nami. She's great. I think she plays Nami perfectly. She embodies the sass, the sensual, like, femme fatale cat burglar thief that Nami actually is. If I had to have one big complaint, and it doesn't just apply to her, it kind of applies to everybody, is that her wig looks awful. And that's sort of a big problem I'm going to have with the production later on. Or actually, I guess we'll just get into it now, because why not? It's my show. I can structure it however I want. So one of my biggest problems, and I'm going to open up a different episode where it really embodies how bad this problem gets, is that I've said this a lot in my articles or on streams, or if you've talked to me in real life, which maybe one of you have, is that the show from the jump gives a lot of cosplay kids recreating their favorite scenes. And by that, I mean, Netflix and Tomorrow Studio paid a lot of attention to detail. They nailed costumes. They nailed things like Kobe's purple glasses, Kobe's hair, Nami's, like her bandana later on. They nail all of it. But the problem is, it all sort of just feels so... What's the right term? It doesn't feel like the world is lived in. It definitely feels like you're going from a stage set to a stage set to a stage set. And that... So on one end, it kind of works because, you know, we're seeing literally everything... Or hold on, sorry, I got distracted by pulling up this next episode. And my point was going to sound weird if I didn't correct myself. So this is... I wanted to bring up Kuro and Kaya for my next point. But essentially... they're cosplaying, right? So everything looks super flashy, very nice. It doesn't look very lived in. One of the best examples is, oh man, I really hope you can't. Oh, perfect. Kuro's coat here. These little gold additions, I don't know what you want to call them, details. They're too pristine. They're too clean. They look like you put it on a costume, put the costume in a closet, and busted it out for a convention. I'm sure all of us have seen cosplayers. Maybe some of us have been to conventions, but the cosplayers, while their suits look cool, we all sort of know that you can't just copy paste them immediately into a movie, right? Or like we couldn't go, oh, random Deadpool cosplayer, get that guy on the screen. He's going to be our Deadpool, because there are things like, it's just part of the filmmaking. You got to make things look right according to the sets and make everything mesh, and you can't have such jarring things sticking out. And it's just, that's why to me, you know, we get everything from, or not everything, but you know, we get fights from the manga. It's really truthful to the characters. Everybody's backstory stays the same. All this stuff is great, but then you get it's all sort of, like if this, I've always said this, if I were to, you know, get let's say like a Spider-Man costume, right? And I'm going to go wear it at a convention or yada, yada, yada. I would, you know, wear it around for a day. You know, I'd go to the grocery store with it. I would, you know, maybe roll around with it for a little bit. I might, you know, pull in my trash cans from outside wearing it just to give it this feeling of being lived in, this slight weathering, just make it look natural, right? And that's just not what they did here. And Kuro, like, is seriously the best example of that, because throughout his appearance, you get, like, you can tell that his hair is super slicked back and like, too much so. His gloves, like, yes, they gave him the kitty gloves with the claws, but the knives look giant. They don't look like they would actually stab you. The gloves are kitty paws, but they look like, what is the right term here? It's like the teddy bears, like, it's like a fuzzy teddy bear, essentially, on his hand. And it's like, I feel like if maybe, and this is not to say any of these studios do well with their productions necessarily, but if you had a budget from like Sony or Marvel or Disney or somebody, you probably would have had the talent or not talent, sorry, but like the workforce and the time and everything to be able to make everything look a little more natural. So I get it. And I would honestly prefer that, you know, series err on the side of being too accurate as opposed to being less accurate, but to each their own, right? So we met Nami. So Usopp here. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Usopp is great. So there's a little hesitation in my voice because while I do really like this guy as Usopp, and I'm sorry, I don't remember anybody's name outside of Inaki and Emily Rudd and Makinyu, but that's, again, Kamen Rider, and I've had like this huge crush on Emily Rudd for forever. Way, way, way before Netflix even like tapped her for One Piece. So that's how I know her. But Usopp's actor is great. He definitely portrays the boastfulness really well. You know, I'm Pirate Captain Usopp. I shot down, 40 ships. He's great at that. The problem I have is that they unfortunately cut a lot of the better Usopp moments that would have really allowed this guy to sort of visually, physically, like, Luffy, like, really, 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 really let the Usopp fly. And again, not his fault. He's great. That's more of the show direction. And then our final crew member, please be easy. Don't be mean. I don't want it to keep opening up over there. It's very, very rude of it. Dun, 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 dun. Our final crew member, who until Brooke came along, was my favorite crew member for the longest time. Sanji, as portrayed by Taz Skylar. Okay, look, I remembered his name. I don't know why. Maybe because it's easy. But Taz Skylar as Sanji. Honestly, I hate the British. I'm not even going to hide it. America forever. Brits, go eat your gross breakfasts and stay away from us. But Chav Sanji really, really works. It's hard for me, or it's not hard, but it's funny for me because when I think English Sanji, just from all the years of living with the 4Kids dub, I always default to English Sanji is a Brooklynite, hey, right? But I know that's wrong. Like, I know Oda has said that wrong. I know 4Kids went rogue with it. It's just what has always stuck in my head. So it took me like 20 minutes to replace that in my head with Taz Skylar's Chav Sanji. But he's great. He absolutely plays the cockiness really well. I was really surprised at how they handled his fighting style, the kicking. They did, admittedly, after watching it sort of play out in real life in the show, sort of straight on shots of just him kicking would have probably been a little lame. So I want to shout out the camera work that was in all of Sanji's scenes, because the way they sort of travel with him, the way they move with him, it really gives an oomph to his fighting that helps sell, his very unique fighting style. The one thing I don't like is that and maybe somebody can correct me, and I'm totally open to being wrong on this, and I hope I am. I don't think I heard them explain why Sanji uses kicks only. And that's like a huge part of his backstory, right? It's because a chef's hands should never be damaged because he needs that to cook, and that's his dream. So if they did do it and I missed it, then I'm just a big idiot and I take a full L on that and ignore this point. But if they did, if I'm right and they didn't actually point it out, then absolutely. We are in a weird spot, and I kind of wish they would have, right? So let's see. What graphic do you guys want up for this next part? What is that? Nope, that's too early. You guys don't want to look at the final episode. And yes, also I have all the files on VLC because on Netflix, it's really hard to jump them back and forth. So while I watched them on my Netflix account, I had to grab them here, or I downloaded them separately to do the stream. But let's see, what's a good shot for us to hang on? Oh, I like that. That was cute. Inaki, my boy. All right, so where does One Piece start? Where does it end? What entirely happens in it? So, as I said before, Oda was really strict about this cannot deviate. Or rather, if you deviate at all, you need to run it by me. Like, I have word this has to be One Piece. And so, for the most part, we got the sequence of events that happened throughout the first 12 volumes of One Piece, which are available for free right now. Everybody can go read them. I forget, it's like read One Piece dot something. It's a Japanese, I think .jp, because it's a Japanese URL. But so we start off obviously with Luffy's, his backstory of meeting Shanks, of kicking off from, I don't even remember what his island is called. Oh my gosh. Kicking off from home, setting out to sea, coming across Zoro, Nami, Sanji, all of them. And so we go through all the major arcs. We go through the Romance of Dawn arc. We go through the Buggy arc, which is sort of part of the Romance Dawn arc. Then we go through the Barati arc. Or we go through the Syrup Village arc with Usopp. Then we go through the Barati arc with Sanji. And then we finally get to the Arlong arc with, Nami had already shown up in the crew before that, but Nami's story, right? So, like I said, for the most part, we do get all of that. And, we start off with Luffy in his boat and, setting out to sea. We end the season with Arlong down and the Straw Hats setting out for Skypiea, which I'm actually excited for. If they can pull off Skypiea, I would love it, because nobody ever gives Skypiea love anymore, and it's one of the best arcs possible. They got it. They even had the Nami was reading Zoro the story of Norland when he was down on the bed, right? So they've already sort of hinted at it. I'm excited for that. But where was I? So, of course, we've only got 8 episodes here. And if you've read those 12 volumes of One Piece, they are packed full of stuff. There's just absolutely so much that happens that even if you gave it an episode a volume, it's a daunting task, even at 45 minutes, an hour, whatever the average runtime is for these episodes. I know that the second to last was about an hour. On average, they were about 45. You know how streaming goes all over the place these days. Thankfully, none of it is like the Mandalorian, where freaking 1 week it's, a 50-minute episode, and then the next 2 weeks it's 20. And it's what the hell? Where is anybody at Lucasfilm? But I digress. We've already talked enough about Lucasfilm this week over on the Black Pill stream. So it's a really daunting task. So understandably, you're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to shorten some things. You're going to have to smash some things together. You're going to have to chop up, rearrange. Because not only are you trying to condense it, but you're also trying to translate it from one medium to another. And so this is a point I've made a lot on the Black Pill stream, and I know people varyingly agree with it, disagree with it, but essentially, when it comes to my feeling, when it comes to bringing things to live action, to adapting them, is that yes, absolutely, stick to that damn source material. You stick to it and you go with it, but you don't. What's the word? Some things might have to change. A dialogue exchange might have to change here or there. An action might have to change because you've shuffled some things around. In every sort of adaptation, translation of one thing to another, especially between different mediums, so, comic books to film or video, or, a movie to a video game, a book to, or a comic book to a show, yada, yada. All of these, you're going to lose some things in translation. Some things are going to get messed up. Or not messed up, but they're going to get slightly tweaked. And as a good showrunner, as a good producer and all that stuff, you should be doing your best to sort of make that all work as best as you can, right? And I think with One Piece, they did and they didn't. So what's the best thing? I'm trying to think of what moment sort of best exemplifies this. And honestly, it's probably going to be all of the stuff with our boy. Let's see. Our boy Arlong, who, again, I don't remember his actor, but this guy was really good. I kind of really liked his performance. That's kind of the sweeping thing about this show for me, is that I think whoever was in charge of casting absolutely nailed it. To the point where I was watching this show and going, man, I really wish you guys had a bigger budget and could do it right. Perfectly. Get the Chinese movie studios, the Lucasfilm technology on your CGI, right? That kind of properly. Because they're just so good. Everybody nailed it. Especially Inaki and the main Straw Hats. Those guys rule. But so with Arlong, instead of being sort of a singular villain for the Arlong arc, the Arlong Park arc with Nami in the later volumes, volume 10, 11, 12, they took him from a villain who's hinted at, because yes, we learn, but okay, hold on, let me rephrase that. They took him from a specific threat to Nami at this point in her story to your sort of season long, overarching, reverse flash, Siler sort of threat, right? That is looming over the Straw Hats at every moment. And I don't think I liked that change because, and that links to sort of another change where from the manga that I want to, or one element of change, because it's not just like one specific change, it's a theme of change. I just need to pull up the proper volume. We look at Oda's old artwork, so full of joy before he went massive shonen. This is Kuro. I don't need Kuro. I need Buggy. We need to, and we'll get, don't worry, I'm going to have a whole thirst moment for Buggy in a little bit because Buggy just rules. So, okay, back. Keep scrolling. So, if anybody's read the manga, this is a scene from the arc where, you know, Zoro and Nami and all of them, Zoro, Luffy, and Nami meet up for the first time. And they do it because there's Buggy. She steals the map from Buggy. Buggy wants it back. All that, you know, it plays out, that element of the plot plays out basically the same as the show we all just watched. But, so during one of the big changes in the show is that when we meet Buggy, instead of, in the show, he's sort of this evil puppeteer. He's got everybody shackled in the circus, and he's forcing them to applaud, you know, doing the nerd crew. And he really plays up the circus element, right? In the manga, he's way more of just your regular pirate captain. I came in, I took the town, this is mine. I'm going to blow everything up. You serve me. And so in the process of fighting Buggy, Luffy, you know, comes across the townspeople. He meets their mayor, who he learns, you know, they had to rebuild the village after the first time it was sacked by pirates, and it took him so long to get here, and he refuses to give it up, and all the people are still struggling to survive, but, you know, I refuse to let them down because I'm their mayor. You know, he meets the people who are affected by all of this, and one of those people is this dog right here who's woofing named Choo Choo, who, one of the saddest backstories, honestly. From a series that has a lot of backstories, I find this one particularly sad, but I also think that's because I'm a huge dog, animal lover, pet lover, and the episode of Futurama, Jurassic Park, always stuck with me when I watched it as a child, because who was expecting that? But Cho-Cho, he basically, the entire town is devoid of all the residents, because Buggy's come in, he's taken over, and he's kicked them all out, and they're all afraid. Except for Choo-Choo the dog, because he stays vigilant, protecting the pet food shop that his owner founded, once used, all that fun stuff, right? And unfortunately, his owner passed away about 3 months ago in manga time. But even knowing that his master had died, his best friend in the whole world, blah, 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 the dog stayed outside of his pet store and kept watch, kept protecting it. You know, he would bark at people, he would let people in if they were buying food, or bark at thieves, all that fun stuff. Until Buggy and what's his name? It's like Momoji, his Buggy's beast tamer guy with the fuzzy ears, the white hat. You barely see him for a second in the series, but he's there. He's actually a really big threat in the manga. But they're fighting Luffy. They get sick of his crap, and while they're fighting, they come across Choo-Choo's pet food shop. And they basically go, oh, what a loser. You're so dumb. Screw off, dog. And they burn it down. They just wholesale annihilate his pet shop. And Luffy straight up goes, I've got you. I'm going to fight for you because he destroyed your treasure. And so eventually Luffy wins. He beats Buggy. And then we get to this moment where the residents all think that the Straw Hats are bad guys because they're pirates. Their mayor has been knocked out because Luffy knocked him out, knowing that if he tried to fight Buggy, he would just die. And so they're chasing him, going, get the pirates. And Choo-Choo steps in and says, no, grr. And they don't know why. They tell him, get out of the way. But Luffy, obviously there in the corner, he realizes, that's my friend. We connected. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things we missed in this adaptation, is that a lot of one of the best things about One Piece is that the world truly feels alive. It's not a, chosen one sort of story. When Luffy gets somewhere, things don't just kick into gear because he's there. People have been dealing with stuff, both good, bad, the good, the mad, the ugly, for however long before he makes the landfall. And then he has, he gets wrapped up in all of that, in whatever situation he happens to find himself in front of. But to that end, he ends up making friends with everybody. He starts bringing hope back to people whose lives have been ruined by pirates. You start to see the true nature of Luffy and the true reality of his goal of, I'm going to be a different pirate. I'm just here to be free, to, actually be a good person and stop people from crying. And, we lost Choo Choo. We lost Hachan later on during Arlong Park. We lost pretty much all of Sanji's kitchen mates over at Barati. When Sanji leaves in the manga, it's a whole thing between the kitchen are ignoring him, they're making fun of him, Zeph is telling him to go. Some of his coworkers want to fight him because, they've had pent-up anger all these years. It's a whole hullabaloo that really reinforces the fact that Sanji had somewhere. And, they're not there, so we don't get that. We don't get Usopp's, I forget their name, but the kids who always listen to his stories, which sort of gives an element of, when we see Usopp first, he's running, he's making all what's that story? He's basically Chicken Little, sky is falling, the pirates are coming, and nobody believes him anymore. And so in the series, that sort of plays into how, Kobe and Helmeppo don't acknowledge his crime, or like Kobe and Helmeppo listen to Kuro and don't believe Usopp's accusations. Kaya doesn't believe Usopp when things get serious. That's how it plays out in the show. But in the manga, having those kids there, it showed that, yes, Usopp is being a troublemaker, and he is kind of, a dumb kid for screeching the sky is falling all the time. But he's also got a really good heart, because not only is he helping Kaya, he's here for these kids. He sees something in these kids. He wants to give them, essentially a better life than he had with everything that happened. And I mean, Zoro didn't really... With Zoro... No, what am I saying? With Zoro, we lost... I know it's Johnny and I think Yasuke? I don't remember the other guy's name. But the two guys who... Pardon me. The two guys who they rescue at sea in between... Oh, I think they're going to Barati. Yeah, it's in between Buggy and Barati. They rescue the two guys at sea. They become unlikely allies. And they play a major role in the Arlong fight at the end, because in the we'll get to that. But these are the kinds of characters that are absent from the show, and I think that really hurts the spirit of what One Piece is really supposed to be. And yeah, it's a huge missed opportunity, and it's those are the sort of changes that feel weird to me. The changes where you take away sort of the characters' defining moments, and oftentimes I don't really understand why they did it. For example, one of the ones that stuck out to me was, well, first of all, it was Zoro's story with Kuina, where they just straight up do not say how Kuina died, because in the comics, she just dies by falling down the stairs. Accident. Little dumb for a manga, but also... Hey, that's life, right? Pardon me. In the show, their master is just like, there's been an accident. And they don't mention it. Also, their master, whose name I will not remember, even if you had a gun to my head, he is one of the people who looks like a cosplay kid shooting a film. And again, everything looks too clean. He looks too clean. He looks like he just stepped out of the shower and did his hair. It's things like that. Actually, and so, oh man, I don't even remember what I was coming over here for anymore. Oh, for Nami. That's what I need to. So there's a moment in Nami's story when, here, let's just get a good shot of Nami, because, so the ending of this, or the climax of the series, is essentially Arlong Park. And we get all of Nami's backstory, which is pretty accurate. It stays, hers hers and Sanji's are probably the most accurate. Or sorry, let me take that back. Zoro's is obviously the most accurate. Everybody's is pretty accurate now that I really think about it. So ignore what I just said. But there is one specific part in Nami's backstory where you learn how she joins Arlong. So yes, everything plays out the same. She's living with Belmir and Nojiko, and one day Arlong and the Arlong pirates show up and they ransack the town and they say, Cocoa Village is ours now. Pay us fealty. 100,000 for an adult, 50,000 for each kid. Belmir gives him 100,000 and says those are for my 2 daughters, not me. He kills him. Super tragic. All that stuff. In the series, Nami ends up joining Arlong's crew, sort of like I don't remember what my big issue with this was anymore, but I remember because what is it? It's something about the way Nami becomes a pirate or joins Arlong that I don't. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. So after everything goes down and Arlong's taken over the town, Nami goes, hey, I want to join your crew. If you can let's make a deal. I'll make the money to buy back the village, yada, yada. In the manga, that is the last anybody ever hears of Nami for a while. Until she gets the money and gets betrayed by Arlong and all that stuff, right? Until the events of One Piece happen. And that adds sort of this... In her backstory, in Nami's backstory, when she's a kid, she joins up with Arlong and all the townspeople end up hating her, going, no, like, get out of here, how could you? We loved you. And we get this scene where Nojiko runs after her, like, that can't be true. My sister would never join the pirates. And... in the manga, they're sitting at the grave of their mother, and they sort of have a talk. And Nami, I really want to bring this moment up because it's pretty, like visually, but it's also a good moment, one and all, a good time, one and all. So here, I'm going to transition that back while eventually I'll set up my stream deck, and then I'll be able to just like click these buttons. But until then, we have to deal with my jank. But again, first stream, right? First solo stream. So bear with me. Barati. Noriko telling them... Woo! If I was a good host, I would have had everything pre-pro'd and just been like, do. But I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. There's so much. There is absolutely so much. There it is. All right. So... in the manga, after she gets chased away, Nami comes here to her grave and sort of has this moment where, Nojiko realizes that Nami isn't doing this for herself. She realizes she's doing this to help everybody. She's conflicted by it because it's a difficult thing, right? And, people work their whole lives and never make that much money. And she's like insane, but Nami, steels herself. Like, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to do it. In the show, they made it so Nami sort of appears there rather frequently as Arlong's sort of goon, his enforcer to collect the money, which really ruins this moment for Nami of showing like, yes, they do try to show this in the show by having her revelation with Nojiko. Because in the show... this instead plays out with Nami digging up the money to pay Arlong, Nojiko finding her and going, I can't believe you've been, hiding money from all of us and using our mother's grave for it. They fight. Nami explains to her. Everything sort of, resolves there. And then they get arrested, taken by Captain Nero or whatever. But without this moment, I think this is like a really emotional moment to her backstory. Sort of like the... camaraderie and the what is it? Like, camaraderie is probably the best word for it, of Sanji and the other Barati crew members, right? When he was growing up. These are like really essential to showing the duality of the series, how things aren't always so easy. They're not always so straightforward. People are complicated. And I just think the way they did it in the show, you didn't have to do it that way. Like, there was no reason to do it that way. And I think it's a missed opportunity. for, you can, these are the moments that really should have stuck around. Like I said, with like meeting people, and then these really pivotal moments to characters' backstories, because this right here is the crux of One Piece. Besides all the action, besides all of the flashy colors and the crazy designs, it's the heart. Like, if shonen series were Planeteers, One Piece would be heart. Dragon Ball's fire, Naruto's, I don't know, earth. I don't freaking know. Bleach is water because Bleach. But it's this emotional. That's what Oda does really good. He builds up, he gets you interested, and he sets up all these stakes, and he boosts them like 500 by giving you this insanely emotional backstory. And it was just something that stuck out to me in the entire arc that just felt wrong. And I really can't think of a reason why they did it like that. If you're in the comments or you're watching later, you're watching it, the VOD in post, let me know your theories, because I genuinely, even in the shifted timeline of Arlong playing more of a role in this saga than in the manga, you still didn't need it. You still could have had everything play out sort of the same. The bigger changes you're going to get are, or like the biggest changes you would need to do are things like the introduction of Arlong's crew, things like that, because everything has sort of been switched around, right? So that's one thing I sort of insanely disliked about this show, and I think it really hurts its goal. What am I trying to say here? I think it not hurts, but it misses its goal, right? Like, if you're trying to say this is One Piece, a little bit, like, you kind of missed right there. So you're not going to get an A+, you're not going to get, probably not even a B+. Like it's a pretty big miss in my book. Let's see. Oh, I want to give a special shout out, because I've been talking about him and mentioning him, but I have not actually said anything about him. Let me pull up. Everybody clap your hands. No. Is it this episode? It better be this episode. The theme is kind of catchy. Like, I'm really not gonna lie to you guys. The music in this show is actually pretty good. I'm gonna give them that. I do find it particularly catchy. Here we go. Everybody's favorite jerk. Whoops. Helmeppo! So I kind of mentioned it earlier when I was talking about Kobe, but I am a particularly huge fan of Kobe and Helmeppo and their stupid little side story and just their development. Because in the manga, you really do see them go from weak, scared little boy and daddy's, little snot to full-fledged, like, marine heroes. I forget what rank they're currently at, but they're on their way to, like, vice admiral and stuff. Like, they're rising the ranks. I mean, Kobe ends up stopping the Marineford War, right? And then gets even cooler post-time skip. So I've always liked these two, and I think, again, the actor, I don't know who it is, but he killed the role as Helmeppo. He looks like Helmeppo. He embodied him really well. I think here's another thing that they cut, and I don't think they needed to, but it adds so much to, like, the backstory and the tension of everything, is that in Helmeppo's story in the comics, yes, he's still the son of Axan Morgan. He runs around, he flaunts his power. That's how Zoro gets tied up. But so there's a scene here where he's yelling, like, "Get them, daddy, they made fun of me." And Axan Morgan just banks him, right? Just dong, and knocks him away. And then he, like, keeps talking. In the comics, Morgan is hitting people. I think he's, like, hitting his own subordinates. And Helmeppo is like, "Oh gosh, like, you're going to hit me. Like, I said something stupid." I don't remember exactly what it is. It's been a while. But then Morgan, like, leans down at him and he's like, "Do you know why I've never hit you? Because you're not worth it. You can use my name and play, pretend, and act like you're all high and mighty, but don't act like I'm proud of you or you're worth anything." Like, that boom, like that's a huge direct hit to Helmeppo, and it's a big reason why he joins the Marines, right? And they don't have it, and it's an odd moment because again, it's one line of dialogue. You don't need a whole backstory for them. You could just have Morgan say it right there, like, you know, like, why don't I hit you? Because you're not worth it. And they also took away the whole Morgan, like, I am great, I am the best element, which is so, like, I love the scene in the manga where Axehand Morgan's like, raise the statue of me now, I'm great, like, let everybody in the town know how great I am. And then Luffy is trying to find Zoro and just shoots up, knocks over the statue, and is just sort of like, oh, my bad, like, sorry, hi. And everybody else is freaking out. It's great. It's one of those really good slapstick comedy moments that One Piece does really well. And I get why the statue bit didn't happen, but again, you still could have had him being boisterous, being like, I am the greatest, a little more vain than he was shown. I think that's probably the best descriptor of everybody in this show, is that they nailed the way they act, the physicality. They can bring the character to life. But when it comes to being the character, really truly telling the character story, everybody sort of skirts just enough of what you need to know these characters, to get a sense of who they are, and then keeps passing on. And I definitely think that goes hand in hand with with Oda's goal of trying to get this out to the world, get everybody invested. But I think it's, what's the right term here? It's not disingenuous, but I definitely think it's doing a disservice to his work almost, right? Because these are all great moments, and they don't need to be truncated or ignored to sort of get a streamlined version out there. I mean, we waited this long, right? You, Oda, waited this long. We could have done 6 extra months of production or whatever. I mean, we didn't know the strike was coming, yada, 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 all that aside. I just feel like you're so close. You're so close. But speaking of characters who I really love and I haven't talked about, and yes, everyone, I totally realize that we're jumping around here, but it's because there's just so much stuff I want to talk about. Oh, this is something I want to criticize before we actually... No. So, Spencer, keep your thoughts straight. Don't make your audience jump around everywhere. So, one of the best characters, both in the manga, throughout the entire series, just period, is my man, like, I genuinely love him, Buggy the Clown. Portrayed here by Jeff Ward of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fame. I love Buggy. Like, I genuinely love Buggy. This portrayal is on point. Jeff brings that manic insanity of Buggy, but also, like, he can be scary and manic, but he's also a huge coward and kind of annoying and really out to only for himself. And so he really, like, I really, really liked how Jeff Ward brought him to life. I want to see more Buggy stuff. Like, it's Buggy rules. And that's another change that I didn't really like from the manga to the series, is that in the manga, not that volume here. I'm just going to bring my face back for a second. While I look for these. In the manga, when Luffy is fighting Buggy. Am I like SSS Sniper Wolf? Is there going to be 5 seconds of silence? So, it must be before this. It must be in the other volume. So much One Piece, and we're only covering 12 volumes. Imagine if we had to cover all, what are we at, 102? Like, forget about it. Forget about it. Man, can I not find it? Oh, okay, there it is. This moment is one of the best, like, so in the manga, the way Luffy first uses his Gum Gum Balloon is when he's fighting Buggy's Buggy Balls, which we sort of see in the series for like a second, but they don't really go, again, they grace it, but they don't really go into what it is. And the Buggy Balls are supposed to be highly super destructive, essentially mini nukes that Buggy created, and that's how he kind of rules his territory with an iron fist, right? Like, I will blow you away with a buggy ball. And here, this is, in the manga, this blows everybody away. Nobody, like, see, you've got Buggy, you've got Nami, everybody's, even Zoro, who is like, you could have at least told me what you're planning. Everybody freaks out, and he blasts it back, right? And it knocks Buggy down, and that's how Buggy sort of enters the battle. Like, oh, okay, now I have to take you seriously. Instead, they sort of transplanted that moment to Garp on the when they are leaving the Axan Morgan's pirate base and they set out, they get caught, or like they're being pursued by Garp, and I always forget the guy's name because he's nowhere. The dude with the fedora, like the fedora and the sword, he's pretty cool. They're pursuing him. They shoot cannonball. They're shooting cannonballs at the Going Merry, and Luffy, does it there first time, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know I can do that." And that's the sort of thing that's a very American writing sense style thing, where it's like, "Oh, hey, whoa, how crazy! I didn't know." Instead of like, "I'm trying this out," like the delivery could have conveyed that. Like, I didn't know. Like, that was my first try too. They just delivered it wrong to where it sounds like Inaki's going, "Yeah, I don't know. It just happened." And it's like, that's bad. But I digress to the whole explosion, gut, balloon, everything. I just like this moment with Buggy better, especially because, woof, right? Like, Nami gets freaked out. He blows away Buggy. And then, you get into a fight he gets into a fight with Buggy, which basically plays out the same way as it does in the show. Straight down to the hat getting punched through with 3 knives by Buggy. Pretty good. I don't know if they did it in the series, and I feel like they did not, and that's why it bugs me. But in the manga, when Luffy gets his hat back from the Buggy fight, it's got the 3 giant gashes, right? And in the comics, Nami is the one who sews it back together for him. Here, I think he does it or picks at it. Or maybe it doesn't get damaged that much. I don't know. All I remember of that scene is him like picking at his hat and Nami going like, "Oh, took some damage, huh?" So again, if I'm wrong, let me know, please, because I totally could be. It's 8 hours of film, of stuff put to film that I just had to watch, and I'm doing my best here. But where do we go from here? Where do we go? Where was I going with this Buggy stuff? I feel like if I go back to the episode, there was something here I wanted to talk about. Oh, that's right, because I told you guys too. I was like, I want to criticize this. All this stuff sucks. All of this stuff, all of this Garp, Kobe stuff, not necessary. Did not need it. I don't know. Like, it doesn't build anything. You could... In the manga, the way they conveyed Kobe and Helmeppo's story was through what Oda does. They're called cover page arcs, right? Where he just draws one for the cover page for whatever chapter of One Piece is coming. He just draws one panel essentially, and he writes a little description, and that tells a whole story, and they're all canon. Like, the events that happen on the cover arcs show up, like they're related to things that happen in the actual story. And Kobe and Helmeppo get one, which is full of, it's like a straight on adventure. They have to pursue pirates. They get, their training, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, admittedly, yeah, it's not related to the Straw Hats at all. And in the Netflix series, you probably had to tie the Straw Hats into it somehow. You can't just have this random other arc that doesn't come back together, right? But I don't know if we needed all this. This mentorship, this explaining the world. I don't know. You just don't need it. I fear that going forward, pardon me, because we all know, some of us know, most of us know, because it was in the news yesterday, and I will be writing an article on it later tonight. The scripts for season 2, pardon me, completely ready to go. They are obviously not moving on them right now because of the ongoing strikes that are going to go on hopefully forever, because forget this. I will. I'm what's his name in Godzilla versus in Godzilla, the American 2014 one. Let them fight, right? Like, burn it all to the ground. I have no sides here. I don't like any of you, so go away. But they have all of that ready to go. They've even cast everyone. They've even cast Tony Chopper. If I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tony Chopper has been cast in live action. Megan Fox will be bringing him to life. No, complete joke. This is from her Kitara or Nitara Mortal Kombat 1 trailer. But come on, that hat. Like, who wears that hat? Tony Chopper wears that hat, right? But my fear is that going forward, they're going to start putting. Here's the problem: you put so much emphasis on the Kobe arc in this season that it's going to be weird if you outright abandon it all in a TV sense, in a traditional, like, working with what we have, right? In a television sense. If we're going to go forward, we can't just do, again, because the Marines are here, we can't have them diverge forever and do their own thing away from the Straw Hats because it's a live action show. People are going to be weirded out. It's just a different format. But I fear that they're going to start making this like a dual protagonist series, and that we're going to, because they put so much focus on Kobe and Helmeppo and Garp that I feel like they're going to be the main antagonists. Like, they're going to be the ones who are always chasing the Straw Hat. They're going to be their Inspector Zenigata, who's always on their tail, but never quite gets them and shakes his fist and then, off to the next adventure. And I don't want that, because again, that's not what One Piece is. One Piece isn't really a story about Kobe and growing up, finding it's more general. What am I trying to say here? Having Kobe's story, having Kobe's story of working to fit into a regimented service in service of the world government stands in complete opposition to the series goal, as Luffy states in his final battle with Arlong, of, I just want, like, nobody should be forced to do what they want. So, and like, again, unfortunately for Netflix and Tomorrow Studios, like, if you wanted to go down that path, unfortunately, or like fortunately for us, like the fans, unfortunately for their lazy production team. Okay, that's unfair. Just their production team. Oh my gosh, classic Spencer mind blank. I can't believe I just had one. What the hell was I gonna say about Kobe and Helmeppo and Garp? Oh, fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, you could have some sort of story where, okay, the only way that story would satisfyingly work, like a dual protagonist focused on Kobe, is if at one point Kobe ends up joining the Straw Hats, which is a terrible idea, at least where we are right now, especially in the Netflix timeline. It just doesn't make sense. It would be bad. That's one of those huge Western divergences that we don't want to see. So, like, I see the door is there, and Netflix has said, oh, we're not going that way. But I'm still afraid that whatever door we go into next shares like a cube. Back when I was in high school, we used to have like a classroom, and then like or like 3 classrooms on one side of a building and 3 classrooms on another side of a building, and in between them were these things called pods, where the teachers had their offices, and they were like just cleaner, sort of teachers only areas. And that's what I hope we don't find when we go in there, is that there's a cube connecting their alternate Kobe tunnel to our real tunnel. Because yeah, it's just, they've done pretty damn great so far sticking to the source material. I mean, I know, and I want to acknowledge this, because it was a really big fight in the comics, and they've really truncated. I mean, I don't even know if you'd say truncated. I would almost say, no pun intended, cut it out. The fight with Don Krieg. We get him, he shows up, he yells at Mihawk. Mihawk annihilates him, and that's it. In the comics, it's like Barati, the area around Barati gets destroyed, people are freaking out. That's actually how Luffy falls in the ocean originally. He's fighting Morgan. or Don Krieg. Don Krieg gets him in a net, hurls him out to the sea, and he's like, haha, I won. Luffy goes, I don't think so. Whirls up his fist, or I think his foot, knocks him, like totally KOs Don Krieg, and just fall, like knowing he's going to fall into the water anyway. And he falls, and that's when Sanji gets him, and that's sort of where Barati, I think, that's not where Barati ends. I think that's where that's where Barati ends, because there's that guy in the show who he randomly, like, this is super, like, I thought this was super weird and like a little jarring. He randomly, in the show, there's a moment where a pirate, like, lands on Barati and barges, like, Luffy and Sanji are having a discussion in the Barati kitchen. They're just talking, and all of a sudden the door busts open and a pirate's like, ugh, help me, like, I'm dying, like, I need help. And, you know, Sanji goes, hey, if a man's dying, I'll cook for him, blah, blah, blah. They talk to him. They learn about One Piece and how dangerous it is. That guy was supposed to be on, oh my gosh, what's the right word? That guy is supposed to be part of Don Krieg's crew, and that's sort of the reason he's running, why they help him. It's all pretty good. Like, there's a lot here, again, that I think they just cut a little too much. They streamlined it just too much, which it just is, right? Like, that's just where we are with this. So let's talk about the Shanks's crew, the red-haired pirates, right? Shanks did not like his casting at first. He felt the most, like, one of the most cosplay-y of cosplayers, right? In his, like, first few appearances. But I'll admit, by the time we get to this, or the moment he saves Luffy, and the very, very end where we have the, like, Mihawk, I'm too hungover. Oh, Luffy's a pirate now, let's party, which is right out of the comics. It's one of my favorite scenes. So, I think I like him. I'm not entirely sure yet. I liked how they did the hockey, which, you know, in the comics, Oda didn't have hockey at the ready yet when, you know, in chapter 1 of One Piece. So when the Sea King runs away, everybody just assumes, like, oh, he's just scared of Shanks. But here they sort of give you that little hint where it's like, it's fear, but there's, like, a strong, like, presence behind that fear when his, like, eyes meet and they shrink. But the best two people in the Red Hair crew are Lucky Roo and Yasop. They get no screen time, obviously, because they don't really play that much of a role. Honestly, after Luffy's flashback in the comics, you don't really see them until the Marineford War, right? Where Shanks shows up and stops the war, which is that's the time skip moment for the series. So it's they don't play a big role, so I can't really complain about that. I just like the actors. They carry themselves really well. The Lucky Roo guy is perfect. Yasop is just super cool. Yasop is super cool, but the way he talks feels like he was taken from a commercial, like an insurance commercial shot in 2023 and dropped into the world of One Piece. It's odd. I don't really know how to explain what I'm saying, but that is what I get from Yasop. It's strange. Don't get me wrong. I'm not denying it, but it is what it is. Oh crap! I didn't even see people were in the chat. What is up, everybody? Red X, how's it going? Tahilum, Deve, my boy Porg. So first off, Red X, no, this is not pre-recorded. I am talking to you live. Tahilum, shalom, my friend. Good to see you. Sunset, I hope if you are Orthodox Jewish, I'm not entirely sure, Tahilum, but if you are, have a good Sabbath. So, Porg, unfortunately, I just saw right now, I just saw your comment, so I don't know exactly what you are, everything you were replying to, but you said here, the only bad casting was Ben Beckman as, oh, yeah, okay, so Ben Beckman plays just a guy, or not just a guy, let me rephrase this. So, in One Piece, one of the people on Shanks' crew is this guy, Ben Beckman. Again, not a lot of screen time. Things, he's got Shanks and everybody have things going on. But in the show, I noticed this too, Poor, because I was like, who is that? Who is that supposed to be? Oh, there's Porg. Let me pull up this One Piece season 1. And we go to the very end where he makes his one appearance. It's such an exact appearance that I have to scroll and find it, and I can't just drag it because otherwise I'm gonna lose it. Whoa, where's my OBS? Yes, so first of all, we got everybody here. You got my boy Lucky Roo, who's fantastic with the goggles on. You got Yasop over there on the side, but I'm gonna take myself away for a minute so you all can sort of see what Porg and I are talking about. Oh gosh, my background, it persisted. Hold on. She persisted. So yeah, that's supposed to be Beckman. And when I saw that dude show up, I looked at him and I was like, who the hell is that supposed to be? He looks awful. He looks really, really, really bad. He looks like a Game of Thrones extra, with that scraggly hair and just the way he's carrying himself. I'm definitely with you, Porg. I think that is 100% a misfire in casting. Such a misfire that I didn't know what I was looking at. I genuinely was confused. And let's see. Garp won't be chasing them in season 2 because his arc is done. He accepted Luffy's choice. Smoker will take that role. Yes. Okay. That is a super fair point, Porg. Let me bring myself back because that's the point. That's why you're all here. Yeah. Okay. So I can actually get behind that, as we all see in the post-credit scene, as everything has nowadays, Smoker, if they ever get their second season, will be the big bad of, he'll chase Luffy probably with the Shigi, but there's still the Kobe part, Porg. That's still the part that really, really concerns me, is how much of an extra focus they put on Kobe. Are they going to put Kobe and Helmeppo on Smoker's crew? Is that what's going to happen? I'm not entirely sure. I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. Garp is gone for now, or he'll make sporadic appearances. It's just the Kobe stuff. But I can definitely see. I'm excited for the Smoker thing. I laughed because they did the Blue Beetle movie style thing where you tease the next hero, right? Or the next thing. Or yeah, it's the next hero, the next cameo to show up. But you don't show who they are because you don't know if you're going to get it. That's what they did with Ted Cord in Blue Beetle. And that's what they did here with Smoker, where they just show him from behind. And he burns it. And it's I see. You guys don't have anybody yet. Which is fine. I mean, you also don't know if you're going to be getting your, a second season. But, oh man, where did it... I just had my OBS, had my stupid chat open, and now I can't see it, and it's bugging me. Whatever. I'm bad at this. All right. So, with all of that said, we've been going... Yeah, it was too much on that season. I agree for Kobe's presence. Right, and that's why, I get scared. Are you going to put too much more focus? And just don't. They should do some shorts and just adapt, Kobe and Helmeppo's cover story. I think that would be incredible. It would be a really easy thing to shoot in between. Shoot it when all the strikes are resolved, and then drop it while you're producing season 2. Get everybody super hype. I would love to see that. I would definitely love to see that. Do not get me wrong. I'm gonna try this. No, I'm not, because I don't need to. So yeah, Beckman was really bad. Here, I'm on the right episode. I can just show Smoker. Let's see. Oh, Smoker. Kind of. Yeah, see, this felt the most Japanesey of everything because this felt like it was straight out of like a Toku series, like Garo. Just the bad guy sitting in a smoked room with one light. Everything looks dingy and not that like great. It's pretty fantastic. What? I just saw something too. Oh, this is one change that I will admit I really liked, and that is we're gonna scoot a little. Who was? I need to see the first person to get the. Oh, here we go. Warning. Wanted poster. That's what I meant to say. Kaya. There she is. So, right here, they chase her. Hey, we do not acknowledge the Viz translations here. Or, I think that's Viz, isn't it? Yeah, we do not acknowledge Viz translations. Like, no, leave. I don't have any mods. Ban this man. Boo this man. One change I really liked, and it's different, but it's one of those ones that I don't think is gonna really matter to a lot of people or at all, and it's still a good, solid, like inspired change. It's turning Pell into an actual seagull, and we at the very end, right before Smoker shows up, we see a bunch of Pell like seagulls flying out into the sea, and I think that works. I really like that more than just one dude trying to deliver the news all the time. Unless I'm wrong, is that normally how they do it? I don't think so, but I really liked all the Pell. The bird even conveyed Pell's sense of like, I don't care, I'm here for the news, which is how Pell always is. What did he do? He just did that with, I think it was when Kaido was beaten, right? Or no, when when Luffy became Gear 5 and they took the picture and the world government's like, suppress it, we don't want anybody to see. And Pell's like, they're like, I'm a journalist, this is what we do. Okay, yes, thank you, Porg. Will Tashigi have Kuina's nose? Sorry, but I couldn't see anything else. The guy who just commented above you, Porg, is one of my really good friends, and we were talking the other night about that specific freaking thing. Like, it is distracting. And like, she's not ugly, she's not a bad actress. She does really, really well. It's just very it's just jarring. It's just there. Let's see. I don't like I'm not sure if I like the fact that they interspliced everybody's backstories throughout everything. I think I might. I think that's how you have to do it. Where the heck is Zoro's? Oh, here it is. Like, where's the best shot I can get of her? Dude, Porg. Right, like, okay, everybody, here she is. This is our Kuina, and okay, this is actually probably one of the more flattering shots because the lighting is hitting her perfect, but her nose really is just, here, I'm gonna take myself away before YouTube tags me. Bring that up and find a good shot of Kuina where you can tell it's distracting. Oh, perfect. This is a good shot. It's just big. It's just in your face. And I feel bad. Like, I do feel bad. Like, it's just how she looks. She can't help it. But it definitely took me out of all of Zoro's backstory. That, and the fact that Zoro doesn't really look Japanese to me. Hold on. He looks like a... Honestly, I looked at him and I thought of Reese from Malcolm in the Middle. I was like, oh, that's just Reese. And I don't know if the kid is Japanese or not. I'm going to say yes because, again, casting department nailed it from top to bottom. But, I don't know. Zoro just really distracted me. And, again, he looks too clean, too. Again, a cosplayer. Oh, man, maybe I can find... That's a really good point. Maybe I can find their master and show you guys what I'm talking about, where he looks like he's doing like a cosplay photo shoot. Oh, there we go. Oh, these are even better, Porg. Like here you go. Here you can see her honker here, unfortunately. Like it's prominent. You can't. It's just it's really hard. So yeah, what was I? Oh, I was trying to find their master to sort of really sell that sense of cosplay. Again? Again? There's no real good close-up shots of him, are there? Except for when he talks to Zoro. Like, I don't know. So, even in his face here... Even in his face here, it just... Everything seems too clean. Like, too perfectly matted, too perfectly, accurately, like, brought from the page. Yeah, she's a nose with human features. She really is. Oh, she looks like... Oh my god, I know this. Oh, and this has been bugging me. Because, like, I thought about it last night. I'm like, I know who you look like. Why the hell can't I place it? Like, you remind me of somebody, and I cannot place it. It is... this kid. Gosh. Open a new tab. Pull it out. This kid from South Park, the ugly kid. Like, this is who it reminded me of, unfortunately. And I'm glad that I just finally nailed it in my head, because this is who it reminded me of, like 100%. Thank you, Porg. But yeah, like, this is just too clean, too cosplay. It feels, again, like you were doing a photo shoot, like you got all dressed up so that you could accurately do it right. Young Zoro is Maximilian Lee Piazza, and apparently he's actually a master of a style of Japanese swordplay, according to IMDb. Isn't Piazza Italian? Maximilian Lee Piazza. That could be any race. Definitely an American. No, I'm kidding. I have no idea if he's American. But that's cool that he's a master of Japanese style swordplay, because, and that's, that's a really good lead into a point I wanted to make. He looks more Japanese in his IMDb photos. Okay, like, there are moments here where he looks Japanese, but then there are moments where he definitely, right there, does not. But so, she made me think of Gintama, his friend they often do, as if he was only his glasses. I was imagining her on a grave, there would be a picture of only her nose. Dude, yes, Gintama. She would, like, now you say, like, a grave and it would only be a picture of her nose. Now I imagine it would be like a grave in the shape of a nose pass from Pokemon, and it would just say, like, Kuina. It would be like a set of, like, 3 stairs leading to a little statue of a nose pass. But in this series, the point that I wanted to thank OM for getting me on is that, say what you will, I think they did really, really, really freaking well with their action sequences. A lot of them, like, I was suffered from the problem I was talking about before. They were truncated. A lot of them were cut down, especially in Arlong Park. They cut out Zoro. I said it earlier. They cut out Hachan, so we didn't get 6 swords versus 3 swords with Zoro. They severely reduced Sanji's fight with, what's his name? I definitely don't. Whatever fishman that is, the dude with the 2 little hair things. Expanded a little bit on Usopp's fight with the other fishman guy, but that one was pretty accurate for the most part. I really liked that one. Let's see what the fight against Morgan's people in the very first episode. The fight against Buggy. Like, one of the things that really impressed me about these fights, and I think does a lot for the show, is that they didn't refrain from letting people use their devil powers. Luffy almost always showed up to a situation and started with a gum shot, right? They didn't have him really doing, like, regular punches, which they could have if they were lazy. They committed. And then, like, the one that really sells that to me is at the very end when they return Buggy's head to his body, and Buggy is, he's like, strung up because Arlong separated him. And Buggy gets back on his body and he's like, oh, I'm back together. And instead of like, you know, busting out of the ropes or like chewing at them and getting out of them, he pops off his hands and just brings his arms back and then pops his hands back on. And I was like, that right there shows a genuine level of dedication and like care for the product. It's one thing you can't say about the show is that nobody cared. Obviously, like Maeda, the showrunner, Stephen Maeda, the other showrunner who I can't remember his name because he hasn't been doing a lot of interviews, the director, the producers, like they, maybe not the producers so much, but definitely everybody who was like on boots on the ground with this production really, really freaking cared. And you can tell. One thing I'm sad we didn't see is a Diabli Jump because I just want to see Sanji's fire leg. But again, there is a shot, and we see it in the trailer, where during Arlong Park, Zoro is fighting a bunch of fishmen, and one's about to pop up, and Sanji kicks him and like knocks him away. And it looks a little goofy, but I kind of think it works. And I'm like, that is really good physicality. Like the physicality, I've said it a couple times throughout the stream, but everybody really physically embodies their characters, even in their fighting styles. Like when Luffy is fighting Morgan and he does the little jump off of Zoro's sword, Inaki like moves his body and like shapes it right that it feels like something like Luffy diving in for a crazy charge, right? It just, every time Sanji moves, you can tell it's very precise. With Zoro, everything just feels powerful. Zoro's strikes all feel super powerful. And I was I need to bring this up to everybody because it bugged the crap out of me. And I don't know. It's one of those things. So throughout the series, a lot of my notes when I was watching are filled with, why that? Why did you make that? And not necessarily your acting choices or the story choices, but the editing and directing choices. Sort of like, why did you cut it there? Why did you use that take? Like a lot of those, right? And this is the one.
Here's what I found.
Shut up, Siri. Is it even? Oh no, it's the episode before this. It is during. Do. Okay, found it. I just want to get a good shot for you guys to look at while I'm talking. It's a pretty cool shot, I'm not going to lie. It is the fight between... Oh my gosh. Dracula Mihawk. I don't know why I blanked on his name so hard right there. But the fight between Mihawk and Zoro here at Barati, where he uses the one thing, or the tiny sword. There is... Do I play it? Yeah, we'll play just this moment. Because, see if you guys can catch it with me.
Your spots. You're like a little frog.
Oh, here it is.
Well.
Okay. Did everybody catch how weird that was? When Mihawk taunts Zoro, he comes right here, and he goes, "You're just like a little frog in a well." And he goes, "Croak," and he does like that stroke right there, croak, and then he keeps taunting and going, "Croak, croak, croak." But instead of like 2 more shots of Mihawk like dramatically like blocking like Zoro's things and showing him in like his powerful element, they cut out to that the circle shot of the rest of the fight right here, and it's like, I don't know why. Like, it just stood out to me. It was super weird. If I was the editor or the director, I would definitely be doing the, croak, 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 and then like the big hit to knock Zoro back. It was just one of those really, really strange moments. But to the end of, fights and things that are changed, and specifically in Arlong Park, they because of the, the shifts they have to made. I already said Hachi, but they didn't have one of my favorite moments, which is when they when Luffy, I forget who is writing it, but like the sea cow or like the cow fish thing, Luffy does, he like winds up his arms like this. I forget what I think it's his, I don't remember what move it. I think it's hammer. I can't remember, but he like, twists it up, grabs the cow by the horns, unravels himself, and then like slams him down. It's not like that important to the plot. I just really liked it, and I was like a little disappointed they didn't see it. Same thing, same type of complaint I had about Ben Reilly getting shafted in Across the Spider-Verse. Like, I understand it's not the most important thing that a lot of people are going to care about, but I cared about it. But and so I mentioned earlier, here, let's bring up Arlong Park if we're going to be talking about it, because otherwise we're going to be looking at Mihawk's sexy abs. Let's all be real. You cannot deny. What's a good shot? What is a good shot for Arlong Park? That's a good shot for Arlong Park. Oh, hey, it's literally the scene I was talking about. It's the Sanji Zoro moment. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, because it's in the trailer. YouTube, Netflix, whatever. Right here. Ching, ching, dunk. I don't know. Just something about that movement really works. It's ridiculous, yes. No human being could come from a completely horizontal angle, but he lands it. It's genuine. I don't know. I really dug that moment between them. But in Arlong Park, I mentioned earlier, we don't have Johnny and Yosuke. Right, like I think that's his name, Yasuke, Yosuke, something. But they play a huge pivotal role in Arlong Park. And again, Arlong Park, I think, got shafted the most, because I think by the time they got here, they went, oh man, we got to wrap this up, because we've only got everybody gets 2 episodes to their arc. And they went, oh man, we spent all this time on Arlong. We got to get here. We got to resolve it. We can't cliffhang anything, because that's not how it works in the manga. So, oh gosh, what was I saying? In the comics, when Nami finally comes back and everybody sort of learns what's really going on, and they rally behind her, and they rush, and they're like, that's it. We're done with Arlong. We're going to take back Arlong Park. It's ours. Or not Arlong Park, but Coco Island. Like, it's our home. And they go to the gates, and Johnny and Yasuke are sitting there with their swords, and they're like, you're not getting in. And all the villagers are like, what? Let us the hell in. Like, we're going to fight. And they go, and again, this is one of those moments that communicates Luffy's connection with people, his inspiring nature, the hope. They tell him, like, no, we can't let you in, because you'll just get in his way. Like, you will get killed, but he has this. Like, he's going to do that. And if you try, we'll hurt you, because we just don't want you to go in. And that leads to pretty much everything in Arlong Park, which is fantastic. Like, I love the arc. We also missed out on moments like Zoro being thrown in the water to test Nami's like her resolve. Yeah, her resolve. And then oh my gosh, that's exactly, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't bring that up. Buggy balls. That's why I love the buggy ball moment. I can't believe, I think I got the comments working and I got distracted from Porg. But in the, oh gosh, I've got to have it open still, don't I? Okay, good. This is the moment that I like super, is it here? Here. Yeah. So, is it here? Let me see. It might have been that. Oh no, I got it right. It was the buggy ball moment. Okay, I was thinking of something else. But ignore me, everybody. Ignore that last like 20 seconds. Ignore the last like 20 seconds. But all right, so where was I? The fight against Arlong Park. We don't get, Nami having her resolve tested by throwing Zoro in the water. I already noted how we cut down a couple of the other fights. And most disappointingly of all, I have to be honest, for all the great things this show did, it really, really, I wonder if they had some scenes they decided to cut in between. In which one? OM. I want to make sure I know which episode we're talking about, what moment, because I skip around. The final fight. So one of the best moments in that final fight, for anybody who remembers, who's read the series, is like that fight between Luffy and Arlong goes on for quite a while. Like it is not it's basically an entire volume. Like no actual joke. It's an entire volume of the manga. And let's see. One Piece. If you guys ever play any of the Pirate Warriors games, Luffy always starts out, like the title screen menu is always him saying One Piece Pirate Warriors, but it always gets stuck in my head, One Piece! Guys in a masa! But yeah, so we there's moments like this where, Luffy goes into fight and Arlong starts chomping at him. And Luffy's like, what? How did you do that? And I wanted this moment. Do you know the difference between you and me? Our noses, our chins? Like, I thought that would have been great. But, you see all of this insane fight that they have. And I don't even know if it's in this specific volume. Right here, he takes out his teeth and, like, throws them at Luffy, Joker style. In the next volume, he has this move where he, like... It's like the boss fight in Majora's Mask, where the creature just continually keeps, like, popping up and, like, hitting you. That's what he's doing to Luffy. And that leads to them fighting. And then that leads to, you made my navigator cry. I'm just going to take out everything you built. Which, I'm really glad they did that. I'm really glad they kept it as accurate as they did. I didn't think they wouldn't with the Gum bell, it's the bell. No, battle axe, with the battle axe coming down and bringing down Arlong Park completely as I always imagined it was, with Arlong getting stomped down. Luffy looked great. There were weird moments, again, like this goes back to the weird production editing moments, which is maybe I'm wondering if that's what you were talking about, OM, when I was going on about the weird editing during Mihawk's fight. But like going back to the editing and production choices, it's just it felt weird to have everybody standing there at the end, just like, is he alive? Because I would have figured, even in the comics, like they have no indication he's alive. Rush forward a little, like, yeah, okay, cool, Dracula's fight. Maybe they did, and like that's what it feels like there should be other cut shots in there, and maybe they just didn't work. It's very odd, but yeah, just the ending here feels really weird because you had to truncate a lot of stuff. You had to shorten it down. Everybody's roles are different, not entirely different, but everybody's a little off from where they were when the manga gets to this point. But yeah, and Arlong got beat. I think I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if I did, but I want to talk about it really quick. I'm very surprised at how I thought, like, when you first see the Fishmen, these dudes are ugly. They are jarring, right? Like, they look bad, especially like in a still shot. Up until obviously the show release, when I was writing articles, I have access to the Netflix press air or like media center, and I got official shots of Arlong, and I'm just sitting there like, ooh, like I know what you guys were doing, but I don't know about this one. But in action, maybe I'm the outlier, but in action, these guys actually looked pretty good. Relatively good. The other guy that Sanji and Zoro fight, this dude looks a little wacky, but I think it ended up sort of working to sell that Fishman grossness. I'm sort of torn on it. It sort of worked. It sort of didn't. I don't know. Like if it was like a contract renewal time, I would be like, yeah, okay, like bring them back. Like the costume designer, whatever. I'm cool with them. They're great. We can do some work, but I believe in them. Looks fine. Looks great. But to this end, one of my bigger issues is the production of the props and stuff. Like we saw earlier, the devil fruit that Luffy had. We've seen Nami's wigs. A lot of the props here are, yeah, a lot of the props sort of sell that cosplay vibe, right? Like especially, where is she? Just give me a shot of her. Just give me one picture of Nami. One, that's all I'm asking for. Like Emily, this is disappointing because it actually looks decent in this shot, but Emily Rudd's wig looks really bad. I'm sorry, Emily, I love you. You're fantastic. It looks really bad. Most of the wigs in this show looked really bad, and that goes back to my point about cosplay, where it looks like they got a wig, spray painted it, or like a high quality one at that. Like I'll give them that. Like high quality in this style, right? Not like high quality actual real working wig. Otherwise, I wouldn't be complaining about this. But you know, they did their best to bring it back, like stay accurate. I was just thinking in episode 5, her wig looks off at times. 5 is pretty bad. 3, I've mentioned this, I think on stream, and I definitely told you, OM. Episode 3, the one where where they first meet Kaya and Kuro, and they meet Usopp, and they go to Syrup Village. That episode is really jarringly, like, lower quality than all the other episodes. Kuro looks really, really awful. Like his hair looks like it's like a plastic thing put on his head. He has like too much makeup on. Kaya looks older than she does in the other episodes and like shots. I want to say that a lot of that part of the Syrup Village arc was reshot because it's so massively off-putting. But you have, yeah, things like that, the devil fruit, like I mentioned earlier. It all feels like they took it off the page and went to a cosplay convention and said, let's recreate this scene, but it isn't really recreating it. It's not taking advantage of, or it's like, it's not making it as like, what am I trying to say? The like style and quality of the production work they put in and the way they brought everything to life is good. Like they did what a lot of us wanted, which was, you know, bring the source material to life. Show us what we want to see on screen. They just didn't do the thing I was talking about earlier where you translate it appropriately. You know, you make, you know, dye her hair red and, you know, use the right lighting to get the right shine on it and stuff like that. The production crew focused too much on the like physical thing that they could, you know, the costuming, the set, they focused too much on all that rather than the filmmaking. And I think that that's apparent throughout a lot of the episodes. I mean, we just went through the Mihawk fight. We've gone through a couple other weird shots that, you know, we went through the Garp stuff. It's just, it's off is what it is. And I think I just lost my train of thought, but hold on a second. Yeah, there's just something about the way they shot this and that feels, yeah, like there's no translation to it. They just went one for one, which is good because that's what a lot of us are sort of like have been asking for. But then it leads to, you know, things looking a little off, thankfully, it's never at the point where you go, I don't believe a real person would look like that. Even when you have people like Noriko with her really blue hair, or Nojiko with her really blue hair, when you have Kuina with her purple hair, when you have Zoro with his green hair, when you have Garp wearing his dog hat, when you have the captain, I think it's like Nezu, right, who works with Arlong to extort Cocoa Village. When he shows up in his hat with his whiskers, it's completely like you're fine with it. You just acknowledge it. None of it is played in the Marvel way of like, oh, check out Bunny Boy over there, right? Like everybody just sort of rolls with it. They take it seriously. And so yeah, we're getting close to 7:00. I didn't want to, I specifically set up the stream so that we didn't overrun Jacob's 7:00 regular Friday night movie stream because he was here first and he's my friend. But with that, I think I want to close out my thought. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention. Luffy's wanted poster. Because of the way Right, exactly. Folks, can you believe how stupid this looks? Like, so many bad quips, or so many just like, is like Kobe and Helmeppo standing on the deck. Helmeppo would have been like, geez, like, what a hat, right? Like, oh, this is for the dogs. And it's just like, not, though everybody here takes the world seriously, and it's fantastic. But in this change right here, I don't understand Luffy's wanted poster anymore, because who, like, in the last one, the reason they, or in the manga, the reason he gets this specific photo is because he's at a party in the aftermath of beating Arlong. Cocoa Village throws a huge party and they invite him, and this is what happens, and that's why Usopp is like turned around. But here, he just is. It's just, I didn't like it that much, because Oda is so meticulous about, like, you know, if Luffy is or not Luffy, let's say like, if Pell is wearing like a blue hat in this chapter, it's going to play a significant role later on when Ace notices he has a red hat and he goes, "Where's your blue hat?" And you find out Blackbeard got him or something. Like, that's not anything that actually happens. That's just an example thing. But that is sort of my big issue, is that Oda would, like, this is not a question Oda would have left, right? Oda would have said there would have been a reason for this, and now it's just why. And this goes back to that cosplay comment where it feels like they were trying too hard to cosplay it than to translate it. And I mean, like, you still could have had this photo in a different, with like a different background, or like in a different moment. It's just, it's very, very, very odd. But so at the end of all of this, like, the big question is, you know, let's get to another good photo to end out on. Right here. All in all, did Netflix's One Piece pull it off? Is this the savior of anime adaptations? Are we entering, like, is this the best thing we've ever gotten? Is this exactly what, you know, One Piece should be? The answer is complicated, to be completely honest, because there's two different, you know, goals sort of at play in this scenario. On one hand, you have the goal of Oda wants to get this series, he wants to make the series known. He wants to get it out in front of more audiences and communicate his story properly in doing so, right? Not just throw something out there that is chopped up, butchered, and looks like Cowboy Bebop. In that sense, I think this series definitely pulled it off. I can see it has all of the main core tenets of, you know, the main pillars of themes of Oda's work. It nails the characters, absolutely. It embraces, like we were all just talking about, the wackiness, the zaniness, the dog hats of the world. It does all that and presents it seriously, and it really does embark this sense of adventure. There are moments where I was like, oh man, I kind of like really want to watch, but then, you know, I would go, oh, I do know what's going to happen. So I think if we think in terms of normies and general audiences, this is pretty damn good. It's way better than it's way better than pretty much everything we've gotten before. I'm gonna put a pin in that thought because we've got my boy Tahillim here asking, overall, do you think they put enough source material love to help reach the main audience plus new interest readers? I do. So what I think this series did is it put in enough of it and it treated it all rightly that if somebody from this point was like, I want to go get interested in One Piece, they jump into the manga, the anime, a video game, they will not be, you know, put off. It's not going to be jarring. They're not going to go, oh, I thought, you know, it was all supposed to be grimdark and whatever. They're going to go, yeah, I can see everything. Like, this makes sense. These are the characters I want to get to know. And so, like, yeah, in that sense, I think mission accomplished. It also sets a new standard for anime adaptations because look at it. Like, it looks pretty good. It stuck really faithfully to the source material. We're definitely going to be in a post One Piece world and a pre One Piece world in that sense. As far as the main audience, you know, us old heads who have been reading this thing for years, who have, you know, figures of Robin and Nami and Carrot in bikinis over here, like, for those fans like us, it feels like and I've been trying to put words to this all day, and it's so complicated. It really does feel like a motion picture, like, adaptation of those first specific 12 volumes. Like, I think it does do that in the sense that if you watch it, you'll look at it and go, I see it. Like, I like it. If you're like me, where you like watching, you read the manga, but then you go watch the anime fights to bring them to life, I think you'll have the same sort of similar enjoyment here, going, oh, I loved that moment. I'll check it out in live action, right? And, oh, and by the way, I love that Netflix handed Marvel a giant L with Luffy's powers, because that's what Miss Marvel's powers are, right? Stretching and biggin and all that stuff. When Miss Marvel was being produced, they straight up said, it's going to look weird. People aren't going to like that. So they changed her powers to be all Green Lantern-y. Netflix nailed it, honestly. I loved the way it looked. I noticed that when he did the balloon, like, you could still see, like, his rib cage and the way his, like, a human's body would have, like, divots. It was pretty impressive. Obviously not the best quality because Netflix and Tomorrow Studios, and it's just their budget, but it was, commendable. On the other hand, personally, if I do happen to enjoy the series of live action One Piece, I'll get the first box set to One Piece. Oh, absolutely. Again, first 12 volumes are available to read for free online if you're interested in checking out One Piece after this. To Hillam, I do know from our circles in our community, Nick Weiser, he picked up the first 3 volumes a couple months back, and then he started watching One Piece this week, and he is just like, I can't believe it. They're so accurate. Like, he's blown away after everything we've seen in the last couple years, right? And I think that really gets to the heart of it. Nick really is the embodiment of that feeling, which is the Netflix One Piece series overall, it's cosplay kids recreating their favorite scenes. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I would honestly prefer that over whatever the hell gave us Cowboy Bebop. Whatever the hell gave us Death Note, right? Like, I would genuinely prefer more projects of passion like this, where they get a little too cosplay-y, a little too geeky, that's not even geeky, a little too cosplay-y, than something where they go wildly, out of left field. But for us, hardcore One Piece fans, guys who've read it all the time, the manga, obviously, there's way more to it that I think this series does not capture, which is a shame, because if One Piece had more time, I definitely think, give them 12 episodes or 2 seasons for all of this, it all could have worked. It all could have been better. I understand the limitations and I get them. So I'm not going to sit here and start screeching like, oh, you guys ruined it. But at the same time, they left out too much of what One Piece is, and too much of the little moments, those little human touches between Luffy and villagers and Nami and her sister and Zoro and Johnny and all these people, Sanji and Zeph, Usopp and the little pirate kids. There's so much there that I think they missed the mark there wildly. I don't really know yet. It's something I'm still mulling over, whether or not it was the right decision to make. I'm sort of leaning towards yes, because again, there's that whole goal of we've got to make this appeal to normie, or not even normies, just general audiences. But also, we're going to keep everything faithful, but we also have to work in the confines of our audience and our budget, our platform, and that stuff. So ultimately, I think during there's one interview, and I don't remember if it's an interview or in the show notes released by Netflix, but one of the showrunners basically said, our goal with this is to provide another avenue for people to enjoy One Piece. If you like the manga, you can watch the show, and it's a similar but sort of different way to experience it. And I think they nailed that on the head. It just isn't fully One Piece. I think this is a good sort of taster. I think it's a perfect taster for somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience with more fantastical things like Rubber Men or Three Sword styles, or, orange hair and things like that. Like, it's a very good way to sort of ease those audiences in. And they did it in a way that doesn't cheapen out how accurate it's being to do so. It's a very good fine. It's a fine line that I don't think they walked perfectly, but they managed to walk most of the way. You know, let's say 3/4, maybe like a little under that, to the like completion point, to the goal. So overall, I liked One Piece for what it is. I definitely hear everybody who goes, "This sucks. This is not One Piece." I don't think I would go that harsh, but I also don't dismiss that sentiment because I can definitely notice. I mean, if you guys know me, whether personally or through the internet, you know that I'm very, very open-minded when it comes to pretty much everything. I'm always willing to give things a chance, hear things out, get both sides, yada, yada, yada. So I went into this with a fair shot, and giving it a fair shot, I think it's entertaining. I don't think it is One Piece. I don't think this is going to replace the One Piece canon. I think this is going to be a fun side thing that everybody points to and goes, remember that cool, like, you know, remember that One Piece show? That was fun. And it's going to be like a good feather in the One Piece cap. To that end, if you really, really liked this series, like, I definitely recommend going and checking out the manga. It's fantastic. It will grip you. I reread most of the manga, like the 12 volumes. I skimmed the last like 3. I reread those in anticipation of the stream, and I forgot just how gripping it is, how invested I get in these characters, how much I want to see what happens next, how many philosophies and things are just battling. It's really great. And yeah, so here's a great endorsement from Tehillim, which is, I'm not a hardcore One Piece fan, not even a reader of it, but I'm willing to give this a try, or I'm willing to give the series at least a try, which is perfect. That's what I think the aim should be, is like, at least we'll give it a try, right? Instead of something where we go immediately, nope, I know that's going to be bad, like, stay away. And then Tehillim closes it out. I accept it's not perfect, but at least it has some source material love. And see, I would look at the other side of that coin, where instead of some source material love, it's a lot of source material love. You can tell, like I've said it a couple times, but you can tell they really cared about working on this. They didn't want to just crap out something. They didn't want to make it Steven Maeda's Netflix or whoever, right? They wanted it to be Eiichiro Oda's Netflix. So I think, all in all, check it out. It's not bad. It's entertaining at the very least. You won't walk away from it going, I wasted my time. It's really good, it's good. And I think it sets a new standard for anime adaptations. I don't think we're quite at the point of success at doing those yet, as we are with like comic book adaptations, but this shows a massive, massive, massive leap forward in all that. So essentially, yeah, those are my thoughts on One Piece. I hope everybody checks it out, at least an episode or two. It's definitely worth your time to at least try. And then, yes, full stop, check out the manga. Go, even if you don't like the show, even if you're just here to listen to my voice, which I don't think anybody is, but go read One Piece. You will. I know it seems daunting, but the pages are going to fly like that. So with that, guys, I've been going for 2 hours. I genuinely didn't think I would make it this long. I want to thank everybody who showed up for the chat, or everybody who showed up in the chat and talked and engaged. We had all my boys, Tehillim, OM, Deviant Porg. We had a new guy stop by, Red X, at the very beginning, asking if this was pre-recorded. I don't know if you're still around, but I let you know it wasn't. I was just really bad about looking at comments at the very beginning. But with that, you can... that's it for me tonight. I am going to go over to Jacob's movie night stream and hang out in that chat and act as a mod, because he kind of needs me to. As for what I've got going on next, you guys can obviously catch me pretty much every weekday on Bounding Into Comics, covering all the insanity coming out of Marvel, DC, comics, anime, all the crap, all the stuff we love to yell and laugh and watch burn. So check me out on Bounding Into Comics. Wednesday, as always, I will be on the Black Pill stream, which starts at 10 p.m. Eastern time. No, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'm just all jumbled up with time zones because of Josh and a conversation we had. I don't know if Josh is here, but I blame him. I always blame the British. Yes, and then I aim to make this actually like a regular rotating stream, not necessarily always focused on one topic, but talking about things we don't normally get to talk about in other streams or other avenues because, you know, everybody's focused on Disney and Star Wars. But you know what? I want to talk about the latest, you know, Kamen Rider game, or I want to talk about, you know, the new patch notes to Dragon Ball Fighters, or, you know, let's talk about Mega Man Battle Network. Just things like that that we don't normally get to do. That's sort of what I'm aiming to do here. I'm sure over time, I'm sure there will be times when we talk about contemporary stuff, but that's the aim of this channel. So I will be back next week, hopefully around 5, maybe a little later, depending on, or no, wait, not depending, because obviously there's Jacob's stream. So I'll be aiming for 5. Hopefully next week I will have Josh with me. He was supposed to be on this stream, but the idiot Brit only watched 1 episode of Netflix, even though I gave him full, like, a week and a half warning that this was coming. So I blame him. Hopefully I'll have him with me next time, but until then, I hope everybody takes it easy, has a great weekend, and honestly, go enjoy something you love this weekend. Go play a game you like. Go listen to an album you really like. Go eat a food that you normally you don't allow yourself to. Just, you know, treat yourself. Be cool to yourself. Enjoy life for what it is, and I will see everybody next time. Take it easy.